Good morning. This is Dan Allen. I am going to be your co-host today on the Q&A, and I wanted to start off with some Jim Carrey. So just we'll take a walk. It's about 24 minutes before the top of the hour. So if you are watching this on replay, which is the only reason how you're hearing me, you can just forward it about 24 minutes and we'll get right to the Q&A at the top of the hour, which is 11 Eastern Standard. But Jim and I is about to spend a moment together. Maybe, hopefully, you can get to hang out with us.
I mean, the Truman Show was another moment where, I had to kind of deal with, well, you're not allowed to do that. You presented yourself one way, and it's a tough thing to convince people that there's something more, but they might want to see something different. But I've always believed, all the way along, I've believed that it was about a spark. Right? It was about who you are as a person. It's about your soul. It's about not necessarily, I mean, you do what you do so well, but there is something about you that is attractive to people in a way that they want to sit and watch you for now and listen to you and listen to your insights. I think it's about you, who you are. What is it worth? What is it worth? And that's what I've come to so many times in my career, my life, is that I've said the safe road is going to pay off. There are many payoffs, but I can't be there and have my soul be on a completely different track. I just, it's always worth losing. It's always worth risking. And if this other side of me is not a popular one in the scheme of things as far as movie tickets go, then you know what? I'll find a way to sneak it in. I'll make a plan. I will show myself. I will find a way. And even if I'm not as popular, I will move it. I will expand myself. I started out with many desires as far as this business goes. I've so surpassed all of them that it's not as meaningful to me. I really love the work itself. I've examined myself on several occasions. I think there was a moment to that after the Rainmaker. We should talk about that a little further. What does that? That means I think I wasn't necessarily seen as much as I wanted to be when I was a kid. I had a job, at least in my own mind, and that was to make my mother feel better. She was very ill, and so to make her feel better. And I think ultimately, I imitated my father. He was a very funny guy, but also I felt some need, and maybe I don't know whether they created it or I created it, but I felt the need to make them feel that their life is worthwhile, that they did something special just by the very fact that they brought me into the world. So from a very young age, I wanted to convince them that I was a miracle. And then I wanted to convince the world that I was a miracle. And now I want to convince the world that I'm just like them.
So you went from convincing first you're a miracle and then that you are just like them.
Yes.
And how does that play out today in terms of convincing the world you're just like them, that you are?
Well, what I'm finding is an interesting thing, because I have a lot of people asking me, well, are you afraid that people won't accept you? And I know that in my life, and at least in my, the circle of people I know, and know my friends that know my work, it seems like, and even people I talk to, like you, it seems like people are almost waiting for it. That they suspected that there's another level to me, and they're kind of intrigued and interested in what that might be. It's that, and it's an addiction. I mean, I'd love
addiction to just knowing yourself.
Yeah, an addiction to trying to figure out what, and maybe this is an impossible task, but everybody's looking for bliss, in some way or another. And I think I've come to the realization lately that bliss comes in waves. Everybody gets a certain amount of it.
Yeah. but
in between, it's just hard work being in this body.
And that it is the unwise person to expect bliss will be there all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. but you look for it. You look for it. You wonder why you're off the beam all the time, whatever. So I'm constantly examining stuff. I probably do it too much. I always overthought everything.
And you're reading Emerson, and you read,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
right.
which is like the big thing for me, you know, in life right now is the excerpt from Compensation. So he did Compensation. It talks about the man with recognize with the seed the mermaid's head, but not the dragon's head. And this is something that happens over and over and over in my life, in relationships and in choices that I make professionally. You know, a lot of times you just don't want to believe in the bad. The bad is there. You know, the negativity is there, or the obvious drawback to the situation is there, but you just go, I want. And that comes down to I will be done and everything biblical. It's, you know, it's so I'm always struggling with these concepts. It's just, my desire is what I define.
Your desire,
Yeah.
to do your appetite.
My appetite, yeah. To prove everything and to be everything. It's our intention. Our intention is everything. Nothing happens on this planet without it. Not one single thing has ever been accomplished without intention. So I started thinking about my life, and I started thinking about this conference and what we're about. And I looked back and I thought, well, I was two people my whole life. I was in the living room entertaining people, being a monkey, you know, doing my thing for the company and trying to relieve my mother who was suffering. She had arthritis, colitis, everything under the sun that was nagging at her, and she was depressed. And I wanted her to be free. And I wanted her to realize that her life was worth something. She gave birth to someone who was worth something. And then I would go into my room and I would sit with a legal pad. I was a little kid. I would sit there. I would try to figure out what it meant, what it was all about. Why are we here? What is this? And one day I read something from Buddha that said that all spirituality is about relieving suffering. And I suddenly realized that's what I'm doing in the other room. and I'm aligned. My purpose is aligned with this. So I felt incredibly lucky. I lose sight of that all the time. Get caught up in concerns, concerns. But I'm so lucky to be a part of this community and to do something that is of value. And I really cherish that. We are all one thing. It really is true. Can I speak to the person in the last row, the very last seat against the wall? Is there someone back there that can say hello? What's your name? Andrea, are you aware that, do you have the distinct, palpable feeling that your intention created this evening, as well as Melissa's? Do you understand that all of this entire event is happening inside you? We'll just try to feel it for a second, because it's a trip, man. Some people go to the Super Bowl. I am the Super Bowl, man. I swear. My friends are all going, did you see that play? That was great. I'm like, yeah, but the energy coming out of me right now, man, is unbelievable. I'm just sitting there. I'm the stadium. I'm the vendors outside. I'm the crack dealer on the corner. I'm everything, man. There's no end to it. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun. So I hope you can feel that. And I hope you understand that you are one of the creators of this evening. That your intentions and your desires created this evening as well. And then I hope you are able to ask yourself, why did I get such a crappy seat? And be okay with it. I mean, you're in the last row, in the last seat. And yet you created this. That's got to be. Really selfless thing to do.
So understand, based on some things that I read about you, you know, that in the end, it's really a lot about self-respect. It is because you know yourself.
Yeah.
And it is.
Well, yeah. And self-respect is certainly one of the major problems in the world. Self-esteem is the reason for most ills. And, you know, desiring what we don't have.
Ultimately, I am the African.
How did you, well, in the respect that he has this yearning that that is more important, again, false gods.
Right.
When you put something so in the forefront of your life, some desire in the forefront of your life, then everything else starts to suffer. I understand that. I understand that because I've gone that way and myself back, whatever. But it's the yearning that is, can be something very positive, can create wonderful things. But when it makes you negate your life and people in your life, it becomes, or you know, again, like when it makes you bear false witness, you know, and, sell somebody out. It's just not worth having. You know, that yearning is the tough part. Yearning to kind of have that, but not make it completely consuming.
And that would be the selling out of his friends, who were not guilty of anything. And
He's living in a place of fear of loss, you know, and that's always a dangerous character. The guy who's afraid of loss is a dangerous guy. You know, he's the guy in Hollywood that stabs you in the back, or you know, turns on somebody or whatever. You know, trying to protect.
If you know a man's fear, then you can conquer him. Some say.
Truly, I mean, that's what the Blacklist era was about. Somebody, you know, McCarthy, sat back and said, "My gosh, what a wonderful fear to take advantage of, and to bring us up to power." You know what? I believe in the universe. I believe in the horn of plenty. I believe in the cornucopia. You know, so I'm not afraid of Tom Cruise and what his movies do, and I can enjoy it, and I can enjoy Russell Crowe, and because there is so much in the universe, we all, you know, can feed from it, and we all there's enough for everybody.
Is that where you are in your head?
Yes,
absolutely. Season, they've got Russell Crowe as a movie, Tom Cruise as a movie. You're saying it's enough. I'm perfectly happy with what.
Absolutely,
Jim.
I've been given so much. I mean, I would be a green boar at the trough of life, you know, if I question.
If you wanted it all.
Oh my gosh! I mean, you know, I sit down with friends of mine who are in the acting profession, and they say, you know, these are really good actors, and they say, man, no one's really getting the chance to do what you're going to do. You know, I mean, it's quite an arc that's going on here.
To have your chance at that time and time again.
I feel so lucky.
But you had to bring something, otherwise they would not continue to give you the chance. And you've obviously ready about that.
You have to allow yourself to be seen. That's the risk. The risk is, especially for somebody who's committed, who has that weapon at his disposal.
Just to go off into a risk.
Yeah. To risk being seen is the toughest thing in the world. We're all very shy people. You know, people become shy. I mean, the emotion is right there on the surface. You can prick me with a pin, I would fly around the room. You know, so that's the risk, is that you are showing them yourself, your true, authentic self, and the chances of being rejected are much more important, you know, much more terrifying. My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. So when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which is that you can fail if you don't. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. That peace that we're after lies somewhere beyond personality.
When I was born in the Poland,
As far as I can tell, it's just about letting the universe know what you want, working toward it, while letting go of how it comes to pass. And when I say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, it's true. I'm just making a conscious choice to perceive challenges as something beneficial so that I can deal with them in the most productive way. You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun. Like many of you, I was concerned about going out into the world and doing something bigger than myself. Until someone smarter than myself made me realize that there is nothing bigger than myself. You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world. And after you walk through those doors today, you will only ever have two choices: love or fear. Choose love. And don't ever let fear turn you against your playful heart. Spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future. But all there will ever be is what's happening. Decisions will be made in this moment, which are based in your love. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and taking some steps. So we never dare to ask the universe, I'm saved. I'm approved. Can ask the universe. Please. I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Yeah, I would visualize. Right, having directors interested in me and people that I respected saying, I like your work, or whatever that is, and I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever.
This was in like 1987, 85.
Yeah. And I had nothing at that time, so it was like, but it just made me feel better. It made me, at that time, all it really was for me was kind of making me feel better. I would drive home and think, well, I do have these things. They're out there. I just don't have a hold of them yet, but they're out there. I wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe, and I dated it Thanksgiving 1995, and I put it in my wallet, and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff, but then just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on maybe. It's all a risk, but yeah, no, going on stage would be wonderful. I used to, I did 15 years in the comedy clubs before I really started acting.
Well, one-on-one, you stand up.
It's just a PhD of some kind.
It's a PhD of being able to relate to an audience.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's
handling drunks. This is the thing. It's like, God, you better own it. Whatever it is, you better own it. I have this need for stuff. I'm always like afraid of it. I like saying prayers to make sure still have something to do with it, because I really believe in the idea that if you don't have something to do, who you call.
Well, it's interesting. You said something about your parents. It's fascinating me. At a certain point, you're just waiting for the end.
Yeah.
Absolutely lovely people. I kind of lost heart, my father lost his job. And that attrition of life had taken us to.
Yes, absolutely. I think at a certain point they weren't enjoying it. They weren't just. And I saw that early on. I have to break that.
What's the number one reason your prospects say no when you're trying to make a sale? It's got to be pricing, right? Wrong.
I'm fascinated with that myself, and I'm wary of it myself, about my motivations, about allegiances, about what I'm expressing in the world, just my day-to-day contact with people. The idea that people come up to me and say, "I love you," I I try extra hard to give them energy, to make it something that isn't about me. It's about them and this moment, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm constantly, trying to figure out where I'm at, where I'm corrupting myself or not, or I probably just, really too much about this, but it weighs heavy on me. I believe in manifestation. I believe in, putting a rocket of desire out into the universe, and you get it when you believe it. You get it when you believe you have it, and that's the key. It's like people still they sit around going, "When's it going to come? When's it going to come? When's it going to come? When's it going to come?" And that's the wrong way. You're facing the wrong way. You're facing the way you have to go. I used to open my arms. I used to sit up there, and open my arms and imagine a giant funnel of gifts would come right in from the universe. Yes. Honest to God, you could, cut through there. I'm like, this, and if nothing else, it made me feel more positive about where I was. I drove down from a home drive every night, that I went up there, feeling that I was one of the biggest actors in Hollywood. I was doing wonderful work to make people happy. I owned all that. That was, I guess, what I own when you think about it is my faith. That's what that's about it. I started thinking materially and all those things.
Your faith in yourself, or your faith in something.
Faith in the universe, faith in myself. Yeah,
that is it.
That's
the sense of
that's all I have.
That's exactly right. You strip all the stuff away, and if you have that sense of it,
That's huge.
And it's as big as it gets. That's what they huge.
Yeah. I've seen mountains move in my life, so I've had this endless gifts have all been things that I have at some point sat and made myself believe were possible.
And you did with the check 4 years earlier. You did.
Yes, right. I wrote myself a check when I was up on Mulholland Drive.
Right.
I wrote myself a post-dated check, Thanksgiving 1995, for the sum of $10 million. And again, it wasn't about the money; it was about where you are if you're receiving that kind of money and what you're doing. Because I've examined that all the way along. When all this $20 million man business was happening, I've examined what my motivations are. And the fact is, I'm addicted to expressing myself in certain ways, and I have to do it. And I would do it if I was making 20 cents. Yeah. So it's really about that. Especially now, I have enough money to live 20 lives, so I can't stop. I'm fascinated by what creates characters. What defines people. What creates them. What puts them together. Everybody's Frankenstein, and they're just like as life goes on, you either lose pieces of yourself, gain other pieces, and that's the fascinating thing about acting. It's like somebody like Andy Kaufman. What is it? And I stood by his gravesite with his sister, and she said one thing to me that cleared it all up, and that was that Andy was never part of the club, so he created his own club that no one else could be part of. Because I was fully prepared to just play out, stand-up comedy in comedy clubs.
Yeah, but there's something within you that constantly pushed the edges of the envelope wherever you were.
Well, or at least took advantage of the opportunities that came around, and a lot of it has to do with just the courage to jump in. I mean, to do films that are out of your so-called power alley, as they call it, it takes nerve. So I have the nerve. We'll see if I have the goods, but I have the nerve. I'm just excited, really, about always changing, about crossing back and forth across the river, and throwing the hounds off the trail. I love that.
Just when we think we've got to, we know you're off on another route.
Absolutely. And if I feel like I've been figured out, boy, look out, I will become something completely different. Maybe I might not want to become something completely different, but express something completely different. I always felt like if the world is going crazy, I'll be calm. And if they're calm, I'll be the one. Hey, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
The situation in front of us is all on you. I got the admit. I'll let him in. You build it out. We got 1 minute away, and it is you and I, which is pretty unique.
Very unique.
We got daylight savings time on that should have been already adjusted for, but it is us, and we are at the top of the hour, so we're go. So one of the things that, and I'm just because we're talking to the recording as well, because it's 10:59, so I'm gonna say it's 11. One of the things that stood out to me this week is a person texted me and asked me. They said they watched one of the training videos, right? And the training video, it said UTC -4, but when she went to her trading view, she noticed it said UTC -5. So she was asking, are we in the right place? Or she in the right place, rather? And it hit me that one of the things that I was excited for my children learning trading was to be global citizens. It just turns you into that when you know, the deeper you get into this process. Hold on, I'm tripping. I'm sorry. Let me. So then, right, I have some friends in Australia that I do business with, right? So we normally meet on a certain day at 8 p.m., right? So I went to get to that event the same day every week, 8 p.m. And I got there at 8 p.m. and they were wrapping up. And it hit me that the US experienced daylight savings time, but Australia didn't, to that part of Australia. And so as a global citizen, I got to take into effect that my daylight savings time isn't everybody's daylight savings time. And it was such a fun kind of oh yeah, by the way, right? And then so this morning, Mr. Rambis had put out that we're meeting today at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, my friend from Nigeria, he chimed in at 10:15. So when he was late, because he thought it was 11:15. But, and I'm saying, no, 10:05. So he was only 5 minutes late. So I'm saying to him, hey, friend. And I asked him, why are you here? He said, oh yeah, I'm here for the Q&A. And I said, oh, the US daylight savings time again is in Nigeria's daylight savings time. And so, and I say all that to say is, as Forex traders, we all really operate off of what's called GMT, right? So, which is not Eastern Standard Time or Central or Mountain or Pacific, which is all US based, but as global kind of participants, the way that Forex made it uniformed, right? Because we all come from different time zones, operating off of different banks' work days, is that we all deal with GMT. And it's funny because I did before Epic and this process of helping other people learn how to trade, I didn't have TradingView. So I didn't have a time on the bottom that gave me my time frame. So I always traded off of GMT, and I made the adjustment. And so that was one of the highlights of my week today, was that just that concept, and then dealing globally, which I'm sure other businesses have to already notice because they deal with international commerce. But for me, watching and dealing with my network now, and how if we get this right, our children will be dealing with global thinking and then also making money because we know how to trade, right? So I just wanted to kind of get that to you because it hit me a couple different ways. The same thing though, like just because you went through daylight savings time don't mean everybody else did. But on a small scale, that happens with my people in Phoenix because they don't have a daylight savings time. So as we shift back and forth, theirs stay the same. So I've seen it a little bit, but it hit me super hard. First, a question from a business partner, then 2 different events where international business partners of mine wasn't affected by the reality that I was dealing with, which was my hour went back. So speak on that for a second. That's my first piece of thinking, and then we'll go into the question and answers. Did you go through that same process with GMT, or how was it for you when you went through that? We're dealing with global influences and all, and what's happening in the U.S. isn't happening everywhere else. It's not the end all be all. Hold up, my friend in Australia said, "Oh, y'all going through your election this coming week. Like, it ain't got nothing to do with what's going on over here." So anyway,
Right.
take that walk with us, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned all of that because I actually had the exact same thought as this daylight savings time hit, and it got me to remembering, from myself as somebody who has always had the privilege of having family all over the world, right? Because
Wow.
both of my parents are Venezuelan, right? So I was conceived in Venezuela, right? Both of my parents went to college here in the U.S. And they were very proud American residents. My mom eventually became a citizen, and so my mom's side were immigrants to Venezuela from Italy from back in World War II, right? So
Got it. Okay.
and it's a lot of my family's all. I got a brother in Spain. I got a sister in Germany. A lot of family in Italy. A lot of family in Venezuela, which has its own funny situation happening with the time of day, where they're half an hour ahead of Eastern time, if you can imagine that.
Oh wow.
So it brought me back to thinking about daylight savings time in general and how this is just kind of such an obsolete concept in so many ways. And I'm not sure anywhere else in the world does this kind of thing, to my knowledge. Are you aware of anywhere but the U.S.?
I think so, because when I was, again, it was Monday at 8, and I got on and they were done. But so for Australia, he started to make a distinction from his side to Queensland, and I forget what he's is being able to be. So the way he was talking, his side in Queensland sounded like East Coast, West Coast, and I'm like, oh, so I don't know, but it's so many different little nuances that can come from a certain jurisdiction. But when you're only U.S. based thinking, everybody's supposed to be like, so.
But nowhere else does daylight savings time, though, to my knowledge, outside the U.S. I
don't know.
I don't think so. And it's just like, so I've been like waiting my whole life for this thing to just be taken out of here, because what use is it really serving anymore? From what I recall, it was like something to do with
no, it's super helpful in the U.S. perspective, because I remember when in the summertime when it changes, because the sun stays up longer, so the perception of daytime to nighttime, that's what it kind of doesn't do nothing for commerce, of course. But the thing that for Forex though is the U.S. bank 8 o'clock changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you absolutely don't know. Europe does it because there's a part in time where Europe. So right now, like it used to be so Europe does it, because when I was studying Forex, my London would change right from the U.S. daylight savings time. Then when Europe went through its daylight savings time, it would change back. So like I would go from the London used to be like 12 midnight for me because I was on the East West Coast. Then it was 11 p.m. for me for a couple of months. Then it went back to 12 because the two synced up. So Europe definitely has a daylight savings time.
Okay, yeah. No, I was just looking at it right now.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah. Well, in any case, if that's, I don't know how coordinated that is with our daylight savings time, but it definitely got me to thinking about how how is this going to ultimately affect the way we coordinate with our teams when it comes to stuff like the Saturday training and whatnot. And inevitably, here we go, right? What you were mentioning, as far as there being certain international cases where you got to like what you were saying, have global thinking and keep track of what's happening here in the U.S., which is ultimately king when it comes to the Forex market.
Right, but that's what I was saying. To that on GMT is when you, from a trading perspective, that's what I didn't know what GMT was when I first started trading. Right, it does not something you need to understand as a U.S. citizen starting off. But then that the whole Forex world really agreed to all work off GMT. And then when you get to learn it from your perspective, whatever country you come from, you have your local perspective of it, which is why my partner had the question to why did it go from UTC4 to UTC5, which is that's just our distance from GMT.
Right. Okay.
Our distance from GMT changed.
Yeah.
So that's
Greenwich,
so
GMT Greenwich Mean Time. That's London. Is that right? Zeros.
No.
Where is that based?
No, it's like its own little thing.
Mm.
Because when London changes, one minute, one part of the year is exactly with London, or London is with it rather. Then for that 6 months I told you when it changes, it shifts. So either way, just as trading, y'all, the Forex industry actually works off GMT time. TradingView has just done a great job of translating GMT time to hours. I haven't looked at my MT4 because I haven't had to track time the same way. But my MT4, or my trading used to have all GMT time too. Like I had to know that 2300 was this, and so anyway, just let's get other questions so that way we're benefiting the whole team. I just had some daylight savings GMT influences in my week, and I just wanted to share that if you're trading, understanding other banks' hours are important.
Crucial.
Tie into the overall GMT.
Crucial. Absolutely. Same as like for traveling and stuff like that. You got to have multiple minds for different areas happening, running simultaneously, so you make sure you're on point. You don't miss your flight. So yeah, and I implemented your suggestion, Dan. I have the thing. I still got to hook up the Ethernet, so there may still be some delays, but I will get it hooked up. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. These weeks fly by, man.
The fun part is I always worked inside of 2 years from where I was standing at, and then that's how I measure. So I time travel. I also travel into the past to get some information to help deal with today. I don't live in the past, but I'll step in, get a lesson, and come back. So I'm always thinking of the people that's going to be saying, remember 2 years ago when Tito had that pause that was just crazy? And then so the other house with the, so I'm here with you, experiencing it with you, excited about when it's a memory of ours.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. All right. So let's hear what everybody's got. You got some questions. Let's bring it in. I'll pull up the screen here. Interesting week, to say the least. It's been a very interesting week in the markets. Let me pull up the chat here. All right. So if you got questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand. And let's bring it on in. Even if you just got a theme, if it's not a particular question, something that you want to talk about or get more understanding about, go into more detail, this is the time. How do we identify trend continuations versus trend reversals, which Lakeisha Jones is asking? Okay, that's a good question. This has been kind of like an ongoing theme on some of these trainings lately, which is it's good because it's a powerful tool. So there are resources, and as a matter of fact, I'm almost positive that Mr. Allen has included in the GEP chat previously some resources with regard to continuation and reversal patterns. And what you want to do is just like the candlestick Bible, you want to study what those look like. Okay, last week, let me just get this set up here. Last week, we were talking about a few of them. And one example I'll give you here. Let's see, I'll use this one. We were talking about, let's call it by, a lot of people call it the M pattern. Some call it like the double top. Okay. Once you get familiar with different shapes and different, let's say, patterns. Okay. Once you get familiar with these and patterns like these, it completely changes the way that you look at the macro of the market. When I say macro, I mean the big picture. versus the micro, which is now you're talking about like candles and individual candles. Okay. So let me see. I'm just going to browse around here and see if I can find a good example of one of the two.
They come out super clear on the line chart.
That's right. Okay. Let me just adjust this here. Okay.
Right there. There's a right there where your cursor is a double top. Right where it's right under your H for the 1 hour on your watermark.
Yeah.
To the right.
There's a couple here that could be considered double tops. Like for example,
right there.
Yeah, even though perfectly
That
level,
one.
this could be considered a double top.
Right there where the H is on your water top, on your watermark.
Right here, yeah, right that's a nice clean one, for sure. Yeah, this is a good thing too to mention, is that a lot of times, or actually I would say most of the time in these markets, you're going to notice that the continuation reversal patterns, they're not always going to be perfectly clean. They're not always going to be perfectly symmetrical. When they do happen that way, that's a blessing, because it becomes crystal clear, you know, that there's a high probability that it will play out, right? When it's not perfectly symmetrical, that is an indicator that it may not play out exactly the same way, but the general outcome will be the same. So just to give you an example of those two things, you can see here, right? We look at it on the line chart. You can see that M here pretty clearly, right? Over here, this could technically qualify as a double top as well. And it's got more candles in it than this one. If you were to jump up to the 4 hour, which I won't, just so I don't have to scroll around too much, it might become more clear. But the point is that you got this M, and here you got this M, right? Now, you'll notice that sometimes when you get into some of the other patterns, like for example, the head and shoulders is going to look something like this. Okay, but sometimes you'll see the head and shoulders is going to happen, and it'll look something like this, where it'll come up here, it'll go up here, and then the next shoulder will actually be higher. Okay, this is an asymmetrical head and shoulders. This is a standard head and shoulders. Same thing that you're seeing here with this double top. It's asymmetrical, where there's kind of an angle to it, and here there's not really an angle. It's really nice. Okay, so this is just to give you an example of, like, once you learn the patterns, don't get too stuck and attached to exactly the way they need to look. They don't need to be perfect. The market's not perfect, right? If the market was that predictable, there would be a lot more people making a lot more money out here. The blessing that we have here in Epic and having access to as many professionals as we do is we get to learn the nuances, because the money is in the nuances. Right? The money is in learning the language of the candles and learning the patterns and the nuances, the small things that most people would miss. This is one of those things where you got a standard pattern, which is crystal clear, and then you got another one, which is telling you more or less the same thing. And as I had mentioned last week, there is also, there's something that I personally like to do. I'll start by just measuring this out. We'll go back to the line chart, as Mr. Allen was saying here. And in this particular case, like, for example, let's start with the clean one. What I would do personally is I tend to count on the distance between this this bottom here, which is the bottom of the middle of the M, okay? And then I would measure that, right? Like, let's say that I'm seeing this forming and I'm seeing this get rejected up here at this resistance line. I would say, okay, before I enter this, I'm going to measure the distance from the top to that middle point. It's just under 20 pips. I would conservatively then call it 19, and then say, okay, once it passes this, maybe I'll set, what I'll do is I'll just get a horizontal ray, I'll set it right here, and then I'll set an alert to that, right? So I add an alert, I set it to crossing only once. I got it notifying me on the app, which I have on my phone, and then I'll create that alert. Boom. Now this line, the moment that price crosses that line, I'm gonna get an alert that the double top or the M pattern is being completed and is gonna run. Now, why do I measure the distance between that middle bottom and the top? Because I am counting on the fact that the vast majority of the times that this happens, it will run at least that distance down or up if we're talking about a W, okay? So like what I mean by that is if it's a W, I'll measure the distance between here and here before I enter, before it completes, and I'll set that alert right here. Please.
Let me jump in here with you. Do me a favor, make a vertical line that's at the beginning of your ray for me. So
at the beginning of the
right where you at, but just make a vertical line for the market.
Give me a specific spot here. You want me to do it?
Line. Right there where your ray began. Give me a vertical line.
The ray, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So right under the cursor, where you made the where you there you go, right there. So Ms. Jones, for myself, I go with half of that same space you're talking about because I'm just conservative. But also I work off of what Coach Max talked about with his market structure is multiple time frames. So as I'm looking at the double top forming on the hour, I'm making my entry decisions on the 5 minute. So from now, Tito, do me a favor. So I use the green line so I can mark my time when I shift time zones. So Tito, show me that same spot on the 5 minute. We're exactly where we are, and then candles.
Right.
And this is one of the things, yeah, you have to keep going to your left. If you use your mouse to condense everything, it'll show up faster. Like roll it, make it tighter for a second. So this is when they talk about the market is in fractals, right? So as we clearly see where we're gonna potentially get a, you got a ways to go for that one. There you go. So now spread it out some so it's bigger. So we saw it on the 1 hour, and we know that that M line he was talking about is where your the horizontal purple ray is, right? So now from a continuation perspective, right, Ms. Jones, now this is where it seems like is a hard decision, right? Which is price just from the white line showing price is going to the sell down. Then we know because we made the ray on the 1 hour that if price breaks through this ray, it has a very high probability to go 10 to 20 pips. So at that spot where it's crossing the ray, that's where we're deciding whether it's a reversal or a continuing pattern, because the ray is telling us that on a higher time frame, if it breaks, it's breaking into a double top, right? So now you got another piece where this at the top of this can you go right above that doji candle above your actual alarm piece? Right, go right up to the doji. You see that green doji? That's north, yeah, that one. So now this is also a doji candle, which is an indecision candle, and this is back to your first level of entry is following the live trade sessions, so you can follow the trainers. The second one is to get good with the signals, right? This is the third one, which is how to fish without either the two. So it's looking at both time frames, which is why I got more than one monitor, right? So I'm looking at as this doji at the top is on the hour is at the same pretty much height as where the other one was, which is making the double top on the 1 hour. That's why we got this white line here. So now I'm watching price go up on the higher time frame. Is looking like it might want to be a double top. So when this one pauses, I'm saying, uh-oh, it's starting to go down now, starting to go up. So now when I'm trying to decide whether it's a reversal or continuation pattern, the 1 hour is kind of telling me as I'm seeing my shape make on a higher time frame. And then when it breaks the line to the under this white line, when it breaks it, now we got, okay, so how much space is between this white line and this purple line, Tito?
We got 20 pips.
Okay, so that's a safe-ish 20-ish pips because it's making my double top, and it still might reverse, but we got 20 pips to find out because it got to even get to the M to start tricking people. So that's what this did. It ran down, then it came back. So now the people that was scared, it went back to say something to them. Then it went down again, and then we made our decision. So my answer is look at what's happening on multiple time frames, and the 1 hour is one of the better ones for seeing a pattern. And then down here on the 5 or the 15 is when you want to really get comfortable with your candlestick Bible information. So that way, these dojis and these graveyard dojis and dragonfly dojis and haramis, they all start to make sense to you. But that's part 3 of trading, which is you wanting to jump into the market without the live sessions and without the live trading sessions. So great question. Thank you for helping me. Let me walk this through, Tito. I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, that's good info right there. You know, it's interesting if you note when I zoom out here a little bit, how completely different this looks on the 5 minute than from the 1 hour, right? You look at this on the 1 hour, and this is a nice symmetrical M double top pattern. Here on the 5, you know, you would almost look like a weird Head and Shoulders because you got this little dude in the middle here, but it doesn't really look like anything here. It kind of just looks like some consolidation and then some price breakouts and all that. So the macro, the micro, you want to be able to get a big picture, zoom out. The 1 hour is a bare minimum as far as zooming out, right, for your top down analysis. Here, you know, and just to clarify what the reason is for this alarm down here is that, as you can even see here on the 5 minute, this zone where this is at is a zone of support and uncertainty as far as what is going to happen with that support level. That key level could reject, as it kind of started to right here, right off the alarm, or it could actually break through it, as we see here just after that. So so for me personally, whenever I'm looking at these continuation and reversal patterns, I want to you know, be extremely aware of what is happening at these key levels. In this space in between, yes, you could also potentially get some pips, right, while it's on the way down to that key level. And once it's out, once it completes the pattern, right, which is really around this area where this alarm is, that's another place of opportunity where you could potentially enter and get an additional, you know, 10 to, in this case. So I hope that that answers your question. You could see here from here, let's see, from here, like all the way down to here. Yeah, I mean, we completed the 20 pips around that point. So anyways, good. Yeah, definitely a good question. Continuation and reversal patterns are crucial. They're absolutely crucial in these markets to understand, and powerful. You can make a lot of money just with those patterns and the candlesticks and your top-down analysis. So what do we got? Any more questions? Feel free to type them in the chat again. Thank you for that, Lakeisha. Definitely look at those patterns, Mr. Allen. pretty sure I recall there being some document that you dropped in GEP a while ago about continuation and reversal. If I don't know if that's still available in there, but
No, it's still there. It's still
was
there.
it was good.
The whole model of the GEP Telegram group is set to be that you're brand new, you just got started today. You can scroll to the top and start working your way down. Everything that I read that I don't think is going to help the entire team or a new person, we delete it out after a day or so. So that way, anybody, as we keep one, learning ourselves, but two, increasing our client base, our clients can start at the top and work down and have a valuable content. It's kind of a library of our best thoughts on trading that stays in there.
Got it. Beautiful.
So one of the things that I'm liking is on the 1 hour, it was easy to see why you made that purple ray, but then on the 5 minute, how it looks so magically leveled inside of, if you like, how price action respected it all the way through after we made it on the 5 minute. So just that leveraging both time frames is always more than impressive to me, because just how the market, as random as it seems, has a logic to it when you learn how to respect it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one thing I would definitely take into account in this particular case would be to be extremely mindful of the sort of small movement of price action within these key levels between these two zones, and just be aware that that is relatively a small space. It's a consolidation space. You can see how it kind of consolidates here and comes into more of like a pennant type of pattern before breaking out.
Yeah, I call those symmetrical triangles.
So I would be aware of not doing too much while it's in between these spaces, especially taking into account that this particular pair likes to make bigger moves. So that's just something to be aware of in general. Just because you spot a continuation or a reversal pattern doesn't mean that it's necessarily an ideal spot to be trying to catch a whole lot of pips. You want to make your decisions relative to what the candles and the price action is telling you in that particular time. All right. So we're at 11:31.
Can I interrupt?
Please.
So guys, just so everyone knows, we have a Telegram group that was created for an extension of the Saturday Q&A, right? And we're actually taking I guess you would call it our own assignment. What is it when you're in the military and they send you to an assignment? Whatever it is. Anyway, we all have, what do you call it?
Duty station.
Yeah, there you go. So we all have our own duty and our station duty time to actually monitor the live session and kind of put in what we're listening to and observing and learning inside the GP group. But it's also for you guys to ask questions and learn throughout the week, so you don't have to wait for every Saturday Q&A. So it's a great forum for all of us to feed off of each other, insight-wise, question-wise, maybe some, if you have some aha moments, but it's a lot of added value in the GEP group. So it's G.E.P on Telegram, short for Global Empowerment Project. Many of you may have not heard or been invited. So just, send one of us a message or just apply. I don't know how you do it on Telegram, but to submit yourself to get in. But we want to make sure everybody has access to it. So if you don't know or haven't heard, that is a Telegram group that's an extension of this Saturday Q&A called GEP. Thank you.
That's right. Another thing, Mr. Allen, you had mentioned here with regard to this particular pattern was you had mentioned that you might come in earlier and try to catch some of the pips down to this point. And it's interesting how that would coincide with the 20 pips and dip strategy, to where you're looking for a break just after the 50 EMA and making an entry around there to spotting to. So in this case, where you see this candle closes right under the 50 EMA, seeing that as a signal to bring your top-down analysis down to the 5-minute and read those candles to figure out where the best possible entry point is under that 50 EMA, and confirm that it's still under the 50 EMA on the 5-minute. And you could definitely have a good chance at catching at least a few pips, just even down to this key level here. So that's something worth noting, is that 50 EMA is right in that zone.
Yes, sir.
Nikki says, add me to the group, please. We'll get you added, Nikki. Any
good
other?
morning.
Good morning.
Morning. How's everybody?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Good. I have a question with the 20 pips and dip strategy. Where do you place your stop loss? Because I know you place the take profit at 20 pips. So if you're doing 20 pips, where is the perfect place to put the stop loss? Would the stop loss be, where would the stop loss be, please? Using the 20 pips and dip strategy.
Yeah, so I have my interpretation of Coach Max's philosophy on this. I'll initially defer to Mr. Allen just to hear his interpretation first, and then offer mine.
Okay.
So that's a risk management answer. And so when you listen to Coach Max and them talk, they talk about measuring whether you want a 1-to-1 ratio of risk, which would mean you would go 20 pips away as 20 pips close. Some people want to get a 1 for 2, so you would want to go 10 pips away to 20 pips of profit. Me, I have a different risk tolerance for myself. So, and what I would tell you to do is, as you are looking for the 20 pips down, then look and ask yourself, what are you comfortable with? And while you're in demo, right, you'll start to find out if your comfortability turns out to make logical sense from a profit perspective, right? And then you can start to play with that number, what it's going to mean for you. So we got all of our brains work a little bit different when we lose anything, right? So I know some people on the planet that I can help them win 99 times, but if they lose one time, I'm a bad guy in their world, right? So, and I know some people, when they lose one time, they say, never gonna happen again. And then they start making other stuff. Then I have some people that are emotionless to it. They say, okay, what's the percentages? If I win 7 out of 10 and I lose 3 out of 10, I know I still won. So I don't know which person you are or which person the person listening is, right? So what I would tell you is the conventional thing is to measure your risk to your reward and then analyze which one feels good on you in demo. So when you're in the live account, you already have the answer to this question for how you are. Me and Phil was in the trade. I talk about it all the time. And he was in demo. I wasn't. The trade was going into 5 o'clock. The market was crazy for that 1 hour between 5 and 6 Eastern Standard Time, right? And then during that time, Phil got stopped out of the trade, and I was still in the trade because we had different stop losses, and then I won. So not making his right or mine wrong, or it could have stopped both of us out, and then I would have lost more than him. So that the question you're asking is so unique to the individual and how you even perceive a disempowering outcome. You know, was it a lesson or was it I had somebody tell me these trailers don't work because they lost one trade. So although I know you, Alicia, and I could probably give you a more detailed answer because I've taken the time to know your personality.
Right.
The answer is being recorded, and I want the person hearing it to get that they have a full responsibility to associate how they deal with risk and loss, and then go from there.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell on Cisco, because Cisco
Yeah.
has a great tolerance for risk. Cisco would win 1,000,000 trades, then the one he lost because his stop loss was at infinity, he'll blow the account. So for Cisco, right?
Now, what are you doing?
Okay. so for Cisco, he said, okay, infinity might not work, right? So now he's tuning in, but I know him, so he's not crying that he lost. He's not crying. He's saying, okay, I took 500 to 3. I took 5,000 to 30,000 in demo, and then I lost 30,000 because I didn't have a. So now he knows that his risk tolerance and his margin account, they don't match. So now he knows where to tune in, but he's in demo. So now we can have a conversation.
Right.
So he's not calling me saying, I lost 33,000, which really you lost 5, because that's what you started with.
Right.
But the brain says I lost 33,000. And then it's a learning process for how you feel comfortable as you get into the trades. And then your sniper entry is going to help also what's going to happen with your stop losses, because you won't get to those drawdowns as much, which take you out. So Cisco, thank you for your experience to help the team in the lesson. And thank you for being the demo so I can stress that point.
Here's what I would say about it, and this is how I personally got started with this strategy as I was learning the 20 pips and dip. Simply put, right off the bat, I started at 20 and 20. So take profit at 20, stop loss at 20. Okay. This is a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio. This is like a default type of setting in these markets where really the only thing you need to do to be profitable when you have that setting and you don't touch it, you leave it at that, is that you simply need to win more trades than you lose, and you will, technically be profitable, right? As long as you're putting the same amount on each trade. So that is, let's call it a starting point that worked for me. Okay. Like Mr. Allen was saying, what works for one person won't necessarily work for another, but this is how I interpreted Coach Max's teaching of the 20 pips and dip for beginners at the beginning. Now, as you get comfortable with it, as Mr. Allen was saying, you are going to find what your risk appetite is going to be in reference to this strategy. And, in reference to market structure, as you get more comfortable with that, you'll find that maybe your stop loss doesn't need to be that far out, right? So for example, in this particular case, I'm highlighting a real scenario that just happened on the 3rd of November that is following the general rules of the 20 pips and dip trading strategy. So here we have a clean break under the 50 EMA. So this right here, this is your indication that this could be a good time to enter a trade here. What you would then do is repeat your top-down analysis, bring it down to the 5-minute, and see if here at the closing of this candle, see what a good entry point would be. Confirm that it's below the 50 EMA, and then check that out. Now, in this particular case, you can see that you did get your 20 pips, even down to this support level here. You did get your up to 30. So you hit the 20. If you were to set your stop loss here, 20 pips back, you would be right up here, right?
Okay.
Now, this particular, these crosses here, these are these crosses represent the opening price for that day, right? That the crosses are the opening price. So the opening price on a given day acts as a support or resistance in its own right. In this particular case, in implementing what I'm telling you, where the stop loss is not fixed, where it doesn't have to be 20 all the time, it can be dynamic based on market structure. What I would personally do is I would look at the possibility of maybe setting the stop loss a little bit lower, just because Let me see up here. Just because if price does a clean break over that opening price, which is these crosses, then that will be a significant change in the baseline. The reality is I probably wouldn't change it. This is almost a perfect example of where that 20 pips in the opposite direction could work pretty well, because you have this this zone created by the opening price that could act as a barrier to protect you. If it breaks through that barrier, it's time to hit your stop loss anyway, right? Because you don't want to lose anymore after that. But you may see other situations where, like, for example, let's say, you know, this other price here, let's say that this was a support level that now became a resistance. Okay. Right. If that was true, then what I might do is say, okay, this is a strong resistance level. If price breaks over that, I'm going to you know, operate under the assumption that things are not going as I anticipated, and I'm going to have my stop loss in this area, just to make sure that I don't take too big of a hit, right? I don't end up in a Cisco situation. So this is just me. You know, everybody's going to operate differently. Everybody has their own risk appetite. But the 20 to 20 is how I got started. And then through learning market structure and continuing to deepen your understanding of price action, the candles, and everything else, you'll figure out where the stop loss, the best place for it to be for you will be. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Can you put a vertical line on that entry candle from the hour that you just showed us, and then take it down to the 5? The next one to the right. Yep, that one. Yeah. You put a vertical line on that one, and then take it to the 5 so we can see where we would have got in at.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Here we go.
And how he's looking for the spot is why the vertical line is so important. So you'd have had your signal, you'd have came down, and which candle would you have got in on? Because the hour chart told you that it was a go. You came down to the 5. So for the group, where would you have entered? So you got down there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I would have done first and foremost at this point in the game is I would have identified where the support zone is, right? So in this particular case, I'm seeing that there's a decently strong support here. Okay, so even though the what's it called? Even though the candle, the 1 hour candle, did break under the 50, I'm not 100% sure if it's going to drop yet, because I'm seeing that this support level is here. So I would personally be waiting for there to be
which candle?
Let me see here.
On the hour, you said that right. You said on the hour, once the previous candle broke, you'll be ready to enter. So I know we enter on the 5.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of to finish that thought for getting this to video. Which candle would you have clicked the sell button on? Because now you have your information from the hour. You're on the 5. Where would you enter at?
Yeah. So to be clear, I would still be gathering more information. I would not just be using these 2 pieces of information. But with this in mind, I would first say that I would be somewhat concerned about this candle here, right, which is a hammer. You can see that it's very clear here that this is making me uncertain about whether or not price is going to go up, which after these types of candles at bottoms, you can expect that there will be some upward movement, which there is right here, once again. So what I would be doing is I would be waiting for a break on the support line, and I would come in on this candle right here. This particular one would be my entry point once I see a nice clean break through this support line.
Awesome. That's all. Just wanted to kind of bring it all the way home, because I don't enter on the hour. I just take information from the hour. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, me too. 20 pips and dip. I only enter on the 5 as well. I think that's a really important thing to do, is zoom in, get your micro candles, and make a decision based on that. Because in this particular case, as I was saying, when you see these hammer type candles, right? Yeah. This could be indicative of a reversal. You know, even if it's a short-term one, I want to wait and see what's going to happen with these candles. Now, if somebody has a higher risk appetite, they may be going for more of a sniper entry where they might say, I'm going to wait for it to kind of bounce up again and try to come in somewhere up here. That depends on you, again, and your style, risk appetite. So in my particular style, I would actually be waiting for another confluence in breaking the support level.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Hope
Well,
that
thank
answers
you
the
as well.
question. Yeah. All right. So we're at 11:49. That pretty much concludes our Q&A for the day. Mr. Allen, is there something you would like to add, or Mr. Rambis, is there something that we'd like to go over?
Mr. Ram, is you promote now for the rest of the day, sir?
Absolutely, guys. Again, appreciate both of you for all that you do. Cannot underestimate the value you guys bring here every Saturday. So kudos and a salute and much love to both of you. In about 10 minutes, I'm going to be doing an opportunity overview. Y'all know we do a blitz every weekend, 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So if you have any opportunity to send a text message, email, smoke signal, whatever you guys send out to people, let them know we're doing an overview at noon Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern to help you guys build the B side, right? The business side of our opportunity, the residual income side for those of you who do participate or choose to participate. So we'll do the heavy lifting. You just bring the guests, 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and again, 9 o'clock Eastern. That is on Zoom 777-434, right? This is the meeting ID, 777-434. One second, let me get it because that's all I remember off the top of my head. 777-434-6287. 777-434-6287. 3 opportunities to build your business today at 12, 5, and 9. At 1 o'clock today, you have a corporate training. So we have that happening for the business building side of the house. Also at 1 o'clock Eastern, that is on opportunity.epictrading.com. That is the corporate training from Mr. Green, I think, and Mark Sterling today. So if you're a business builder, definitely get on there, get some notes and nuggets, and plug in your team as well, right? Because you want to leverage everything you can, right? You want your team to be fed even when you can't feed them. That's what these systems are all about. So appreciate you again. And guys, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Remember, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, we do the Builders Academy. So we welcome you to join us right back here on this same Zoom tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Turn it back over to you. Thanks, guys.
It's all you, Tito.
Wonderful. All right. All right. So if that concludes everything, I think we're wrapped up here for the day. Thank you all once again for coming. Thank you for your questions. I'm learning here as much as all you. Appreciate the sauce you bring here, Mr. Allen. And everybody have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you again next week. Drop any remaining questions in the GEP chat. See you all there. God bless.